And away we go, episode 1390 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Tuesday, August 18th, 2026, and the kicker competition at 2026 Washington Commanders training camp is over. Drew Stevens, the undrafted rookie out of the University of Iowa, he has defeated incumbent Jake Moody. You know, this is like politics. You know how the Iowa caucus has been a major early electoral test for a party's presidential nomination? Well, Drew Stevens, undrafted rookie out of Iowa, has unseated the incumbent Jake Moody. We on Monday afternoon had reports that Washington is releasing Moody. Also, we on Monday morning had reports that Washington is signing a running back, unrestricted free agent running back Craig Reynolds, who began his NFL career via being signed by the Washington Redskins as an undrafted free agent out of Kutztown University of Pennsylvania in May 2019. And we on Monday evening had reports that Washington is signing unrestricted free agent inside linebacker Chris Barnes. But yeah, the kicker competition is over. As we had discussed on the podcast, Drew Stevens was winning the competition. That he already has won the competition, though, is surprising. I mean, the competition ends up being decided after just one of the team's 3 games in the NFL's 2026 preseason. Washington's preseason opening 27 win over the Miami Dolphins at Northwest Stadium this past Friday night. Jake Moody this past Friday night went 1 for 1 on field goals and went 1 for 1 on extra points, but his made field goal was, shall we say, not smooth. He connected on a 29-yard field goal with 10:13 left in the second quarter, but the ball doinked off the right upright. Stevens, he this past Friday night went 1 for 1 on field goals and went 1 for 1 on extra points. And now he did initially miss his extra point attempt, but that miss was negated by a 5-yard false start penalty by offensive lineman Matt Golbin. The play was blown dead, and who knows, maybe the whistle was why Stevens missed the initial extra point attempt, but he connected beautifully on a 41-yard field goal with 6:25 left in the fourth quarter. And then there's this. Stevens in practices this training camp has been a lot better than Moody has been. Per Grant Paulson of 106.7 The Fan, Moody on field goal attempts in this year's training camp just 36 for 47. Stevens on field goal attempts in this year's training camp 43 for 48. A big difference. Much more on Drew Stevens winning Washington's kicker competition when we hear from head coach Dan Quinn during his pre-practice press conference on Tuesday morning. Is Drew Stevens a, quote, dog-ass competitor, end quote?
This is a dog-ass competitor.
Yes, thank you, Dan. Is Drew Stevens a, quote, dog-ass competitor, end quote? We'll perhaps find out on Tuesday morning. Washington had an off day on Monday and thus no media availability, but the team on Tuesday morning has a padded practice and on Wednesday morning has a padded practice. Hello and welcome to this Tuesday installment of the Al Galdi podcast. It was 11 days ago, August 7th, that Washington announced having signed unrestricted free agent receiver Stefon Diggs. A lot has happened with our team since then, but it having signed Diggs remains a big deal. And if Dan Quinn in Washington's preseason game at the Detroit Lions this Saturday at noon does play Washington starters / key players at least a little bit, then this Saturday afternoon we'll see Diggs in game action for Washington for the first time. Next segment, an in-depth breakdown of Stefon Diggs as we'll speak with New England Patriots insider Taylor Kyles of Patriots on CLNS. Taylor is really good, very well informed. He'll discuss what Washington is getting in Diggs, how the Pats in the 2025 season maximized Diggs, the reliable hands of Diggs, how Diggs was as a teammate for Pats players in the 2025 season, the extent to which Diggs played a role in Pats quarterback Drake Maye's breakout 2025 season, why the Pats released Diggs, and more. And Taylor also will give us insight on outside linebacker K'Lavon Chaisson of Washington this past March, having signed him as an unrestricted free agent from the Pats. New England Patriots insider Taylor Kyles of Patriots on CLNS. Next segment with intel on Stefon Diggs and K'Lavon Chaisson. And also on the show, I'll talk Baltimore Orioles, a disappointing ending to a lengthy road trip, a 7-6 loss at the Tampa Bay Rays on Monday evening, denying the O's a 4-game sweep and concluding a 5-5 road trip. This was a game in which the O's blew a 6-4 7th-inning lead. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. You can reach me via writing a review of the podcast on Apple Podcasts. You can write about whatever you want, and I'll read what you write if you give the podcast a 5-star rating. Email from Dr. Philip C., the MD, on the Washington Commanders situation at receiver regarding the team's initial 53-man roster for the 2026 season, writes the doctor. This is a fool's errand, but who said it isn't fun to speculate? But I'm calling it now. Jalen Lane is the odd man out. Receivers we keep: Terry, Diggs, Williams, Burks, Diami, McCaffrey, Jefferson. DQ said it himself. Lane is a returner who brings some things to the receiver position, but Williams and McCaffrey are receivers who bring something to the return game. Given how the quantities of those snaps differ, it wouldn't make any sense to keep Lane if you're going to get 80% of the value in the return game at 5% of the offensive snaps. Thank you for the email, Dr. Phillip. Interesting thought. The perceived top 8 receivers for Washington in some order are Terry McLaurin, Stefon Diggs, Antonio Williams, Treylon Burks, Luke McCaffrey, Jalen Lane, Diami Brown, and Van Jefferson. If you're looking at those 8, you certainly could argue that Jalen Lane is the worst of the 8 in terms of being a pure receiver. However, and this is where things become complicated, the value that Lane last regular season brought as a punt returner was significant. He didn't just bring some value as a punt returner, he brought considerable value as a punt returner. Jalen Lane for the 2025 regular season was number 5 out of 16 qualified players in the NFL per Pro Football Reference, and yards per punt return 13.7. He last regular season had 2 punt returns for touchdowns, became the first Washington player to have at least 2 punt return touchdowns in a regular season since running back Brian Mitchell in 1994, and these were impressive punt return touchdowns. The 41-24 win over the Las Vegas Raiders at Northwest Stadium this past September 21st, Lane had a 90-yard punt return for a touchdown with 9:35 left in the third quarter. In fact, that was Washington's first punt return for a touchdown in a regular season game since receiver Jamison Crowder had an 85-yard punt return for a touchdown in a 16-10 win at the Baltimore Ravens all the way back on October 9th, 2016, and Lane in the 29-21 win at the New York Giants this past December 14th had a 63-yard punt return for a touchdown with 1:05 left in the second quarter. If Washington and Jalen Lane has an elite punt returner, I'm not talking about a nice punt returner, I'm talking about an elite punt returner, then no way should he not make the team's initial 53-man roster for the 2026 season. Jalen Lane, if he is a high-level punt-returning weapon, you got to keep that guy, even if he isn't bringing all that much to you as a receiver. The situation at receiver is a tough call. During Dan Quinn's press conference on Sunday afternoon, had this exchange between Commanders insider J.P. Finley of NBC4 Washington and Quinn.
What'd you think of the receivers not having Terry and Diggs go the other night? I imagine you were fairly encouraged. What'd you think of the group?
Yeah, we thought I felt like the speed of right off the bat with Treylon and Diami, you feel the energy for that. I wish we would have had an op on the first play pass that was a down the field shot. We ended up throwing it to Trey. There was an opportunity to hit it back to Diami if Marcus had to have that one again. But past that, we thought it was good to see, even in cover 3, JP, some over routes. There was one from AK to I think it was Jacoby Jones. There was a good, rip, I thought, at the end of the half to Jalen. Ended different locations. I thought they had a nice job of spreading everybody around. Probably would have liked to seen even more, even from the tight end group, to see, more catches down the field, seam and burst. But I thought they did a good job of spreading it all the way around with the guys.
It's funny. You look at the receivers who Washington kept on its initial 53-man roster for each of the previous 2 seasons, 2024 and 2025. So Washington kept 6 receivers on the team's initial 53-man roster for the 2024 season. Terry McLaurin, Luke McCaffrey, Olamide Zaccheaus, Diami Brown, Byron Pringle, and Jamison Crowder. And Washington kept just 5 receivers on the team's initial 53-man roster for the 2025 season. Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel Sr., Noah Brown, Jalen Lane, and Luke McCaffrey. No way is Washington keeping just 5 receivers on the team's initial 53 for the 2026 season. You're looking at least 6, maybe 7. And I do believe that this is a talented receiving corps. Email from John Granlund on the Washington Nationals moving CJ Abrams from being primarily a shortstop to being primarily a second baseman. Nats manager Blake Butera, during his pregame session with reporters this past Friday afternoon, announced that news, which I discussed at length on Monday's show, episode 1389, and discussed at length on the Nats podcast that I do, Nats Chat, with Nats insider Mark Zuckerman of NatsJournal.com. We talked about the CJ Abrams news on the Nats Chat episode that came out this past Friday night / Saturday morning. Writes John, "Hey Al, love the Nats pod. Listen to your discussion about how Abrams may be reluctant to move to second because he would make less money. I couldn't disagree more. If he puts up another year like this one next year, he could vomit on himself in the left field bleachers every time the ball is hit and still earn $300 million. Insisting on staying at shortstop could only cost him money as a free agent. Hope all is well. Cheers." Thank you for the email, John. Same to you. Well, great second basemen do not get paid what great shortstops get paid. That's indisputable. If you go by data on SpotTrack.com, MLB's 2026 season includes the following: 8 players who play shortstop to an at least significant extent with contracts with average annual values, AAVs, of at least $25 million. A mere 3 players who play second base to an at least significant extent with contracts with AAVs of at least $25 million. Shortstop is a more important defensive position than second base is, and thus great shortstops get paid more than great second basemen get paid. But to John's point, if CJ Abrams continues to be a great offensive player as a second baseman, then yeah, he'll get paid a ton, either by the Nats or another team. Abrams is in his age 25 season and is under team control through the 2028 season. Now, a question with Abrams is the great offensive player who he is this season, is that who he now truly is, or is he just having a career best season? OPS Plus is a great stat. It's OPS that's adjusted for a player's league and home ballpark. 100 is average. Above 100 is good. Below 100 is bad. You can find OPS Plus on Baseball Reference. CJ Abrams for the 2026 regular season as of games through Sunday had an OPS Plus of 141, which is outstanding. But Abrams, over his first 4 MLB regular seasons, 2022 through 2025, had an OPS plus of 101, which basically is league average. Is CJ Abrams more the 141 OPS plus guy or the 101 OPS plus guy? Because there's a big difference in what each guy should get paid regardless of his position. Hey, please consider subscribing to the podcast if you're not already doing that. Subscribing to the podcast costs nothing. Make sure that you never miss an episode and helps out the podcast a lot. And if you're already subscribing, thank you.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
We lately, unfortunately, have had too much negative Washington Commanders news. August 8th, Washington starting left tackle Laremy Tunsil, he suffered a torn triceps during a training camp practice. Last Wednesday night, August 12th, the news of the situation between Washington's QB1, Jaden Daniels, and LSU broke, and he since then has been criticized and mocked a great deal. This past Friday night, August 14th, Washington's QB2, Marcus Mariota, he suffered a sprained MCL in his right knee in the team's preseason opening 27 win over the Miami Dolphins at Northwest Stadium. All of this negative news has come off the exciting news of Washington on August 7th announcing having signed unrestricted free agent receiver Stefon Diggs. In a time in which we should be basking in the afterglow of the team having signed Diggs, we instead have had to deal with all of this negative news. And so let us bask right now. Stefon Diggs spent the 2025 season with the New England Patriots, for whom he did quite well. Diggs had suffered a torn ACL in his right knee in October 2024 while playing playing for the Houston Texans, but he for the Pats in the 2025 season played in all 17 of their regular season games and in all 4 of the team's postseason games as the Pats won the AFC Championship. Diggs, in playing in all 17 of the Pats games in the 2025 regular season, had 85 receptions for 1,013 yards and 4 touchdowns on 102 targets and registered a receiving success rate of 68.6, the best of his NFL career. In fact, Diggs for the 2025 regular season was number 4 among all qualified pass catchers in the NFL per Pro Football Reference in receiving success rate. Diggs for the 2025 regular season per fantasy points data was number 3 among all NFL receivers, each with at least 270 routes run in expected points added, EPA per route run at 0.187. Diggs for the 2025 regular season was number 6 among 81 qualified NFL receivers in overall grade per Pro Football Focus at 87.5. What will Washington get from Stefon Diggs in the 2026 season, his age 33 season? I am pleased to welcome to the Al Galdi podcast New England Patriots insider Taylor Kyles of Patriots on CLNS. Taylor is a former researcher for the NFL's Next Gen Stats. You can follow Taylor on X at tkyles39. Hey, Taylor, how are you?
Doing well, Al. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Doing well. Nice to speak to you. What would you say that Washington is getting in Stefon Diggs?
I would say you are getting a pro's pro at wide receiver, to be honest. Last year, Stefon Diggs catches like 80% of his balls, leads the NFL in catch rate. One of the things that really impressed me last season was the IQ that you would see, especially against like some zone coverages, where instead of just running the route the way it is on paper, you'd often see him adjust. So he would give Drake Maye maximized windows to throw. And that was great for Drake's development because he didn't really have that guy his first season. And when it came to just the nuances and the discipline of his routes, he was always on the money in a way that, again, is so crucial for a young quarterback in his development. So it was a pleasure to cover him and really just, watch a master at work. He may not be as explosive as he used to be, but all the little things that you have to do as a wide receiver, he does on a consistent basis.
Stefon Diggs for the Pats in the 2025 regular season per data on RotoWire lined up in the slot on 300 plays, lined up on the outside on 285 plays, and lined up tight on 11 plays. Is he at this point in his career a receiver who should primarily line up in the slot, or does he have enough juice to still line up outside a good bit?
I would say in general, even more so than inside or outside, you want him inside the numbers. So whether that's, he's the bottom man in a stack or anything that allows him to get off the line of scrimmage and gives him the maximum space. So at times in some 3 receiver looks for the Patriots, that did mean Stefon Diggs being in the slot. And a lot of that had to do with his intelligence on option routes and being able to read the defense and function at a high level while having to process a lot of things. And then sometimes they would have him to the tight end side right next to him where it would be difficult for guys to really get their hands on him. Would also open him up on some crossing routes deep down the field. That was one of the places where a lot of his explosive plays came from. So I just think the biggest thing you don't want to do is stick him outside the numbers as that isolated receiver and say, hey, go beat the other team's best cornerback. That's not really where he's at right now. He's going to be a zone beater, and then he's going to be someone who beats man coverage in the short to intermediate levels.
Stefon Diggs for the Pats last season, very productive. How was this the case? What can Washington learn from what New England did with Diggs in order to maximize Diggs?
I think it was similar to just putting him in best positions to succeed. Again, not really asking him to win vertically against man coverage. Sometimes using him in motion so that he have some of those easier releases. Part of it was just Drake Maye and his aggressiveness as well, which obviously you're very familiar with Jaden Daniels. But just being able to, even if Stefon Diggs wasn't wide open, still give him opportunities to make big plays. Scramble drills were another place where he was very valuable for the Patriots. And Stefon Diggs understanding where the space was, where he needed to get to, how to shake loose for man coverage if he had to. So I would say the scramble drills were big. And just, as I said earlier, using him inside the numbers where he has as much space as possible to work with. And one area where he is still pretty good is after the catch. In the Falcons game, he juked one linebacker so badly. I gave him some props after, and he was like, yeah, I still got it. So use him in a diverse kind of set of roles and just don't make him a one-trick pony.
Stefon Diggs for the Pats last regular season played in all 17 of the team's games, but on just 54.67% of the team's offensive snaps. Boy, it sure seems like the Pats managed him very well with this less is more approach. He did not miss a game, and he was very productive. All of this coming off a torn ACL in his right knee.
Absolutely. And part of that was the Patriots being in a unique situation where they had a very deep wide receiver room in terms of different guys had different skill sets. So they didn't love having Stefon Diggs on the field in more obvious running situations. That's where you'd see bigger guys like Kayshon Boutte and Mac Hollins. There'd also be some times where Demario Douglas would be the slot receiver just because he brought a more explosive element and a different way of beating man coverage. So part of it definitely was a pitch count and not wanting to overload him. Part of it was just, again, maximizing what he does best and not putting him in positions where you're, constantly asking him to run block and do stuff like that. But because, they knew what they had in Stefon Diggs, a lot of those targets were kind of funneled to him where, for example, you're going out in an empty formation specifically to get Stefon Diggs matched up on a linebacker so he can either beat him in space or, do what he needed to do in that mismatch kind of situation. So definitely made the most of the opportunities he was given. But honestly, I think with Washington, as long as you're not asking him to stick his face in the fire in the run game, I think they could probably use him at a higher clip. But, I'm not saying he should be a guy that's on the field for 90% of the snaps or anything.
One of the great stats for Stefon Diggs in the 2025 regular season is that he had just 2 drops per Pro Football Focus. What can you tell us about the hands of Diggs?
Ball magnet. It was incredible to watch. And although he wasn't the biggest downfield threat for the Patriots, there were some crazy catches he made. I know there was one, I think it was against the Ravens, where he goes up and grabs it, gets clotheslined, and then celebrates after the play. Another one against the Jets where it was a scramble drill, and he did a great job boxing out his defender, and going to attack that one. So the hands are reliable, does a great job being late with his hands so that defenders don't know when he's actually going to attack the ball and so that they can't punch it out. So if you're looking for somebody reliable, I know Terry's probably going to be that scary guy deep down the field, but just as a chain mover, someone you can rely on in crucial situations, that's going to be Diggs all the way.
Washington is Stefon Diggs' 4th team in 4 seasons. He does have the reputation for being feisty and wearing out his welcome. He, over the last 12 months, has had a number of troubling off-the-field items, although how legit these items are is hard to say. Bottom line, how was Diggs as a teammate for Pats players last season?
I thought he was really good in the locker room. He took on a leadership role in the wide receiver room alongside Mac Hollins, where guys would just kind of lead by example. But even more than that, if you look at all the clips of, the Patriots pregame, the little hype speech, that was Stefon Diggs in the middle of the huddle. Especially, I remember against that Bills game, you could see the passion coming off of him. It fired everybody else up. And I really think he had an energy that the entire offense, and by extension, the entire team, was able to feed off of. And then obviously the professionalism of being in so many big situations and high leverage situations and people knowing that, he was going to be able to perform for them and that giving them a certain sense of confidence. And also in the locker room, he was talking to everybody, very social guy, and someone that people could kind of rally around in a sense. So I'm not going to act like it was perfect. There was the incident on the boat during the off season that kind of went around. There were there was a legal situation that was going on. And I believe Stefon Diggs was found innocent, but there were some things that popped up. But in terms of what he did in the locker room, the way he was with the media, I would say he was pretty good overall.
We saw the Pats QB1 Drake Maye take a giant step forward last season in his 2nd NFL season. Is it accurate to say that Stefon Diggs played a key role in Maye taking that giant step forward?
Oh, 100%. And part of that was the fact that Stefon Diggs he'd actually previously been with Josh McDaniels' brother, Ben McDaniels, in Houston. And then back when he was in Buffalo, he was in a Brian Daboll offense, which is also an offshoot of that Patriots system. So he came in with a pretty good understanding of what he needed to do. And in such a complicated offense, I think it was great for Drake Maye to have that steadying presence where he knew that Stefon Diggs was going to be where he needed to be, when he needed to be there. But even more than that, as I kind of mentioned earlier, earlier, not just drawing the routes the way they're drawn up, or not running the routes the way they're drawn on paper, but actually being able to give the quarterback an ideal target and also not put himself in positions where he's running into coverage and potentially getting himself in bad situations. So the stability that he brought was huge, I think, for Drake Maye. Again, he didn't have that as a rookie. It was, kind of just praying that guys were going to do their job the right way on a consistent basis. But yeah, I think Stefon Diggs was really, really big for Drake Maye, both his confidence and just his ability to produce on a consistent basis.
Much more with Taylor Kyles in moments, but if you are a Washington Commanders fan, check out bgobsession.com, an outstanding site for discussion about the team, especially as training camp is ongoing. BG Obsession, or BGO, has been going strong since 2009. BG Obsession offers great contests, game day chats, and camaraderie. No politics, just football. Both old school and new school fans are welcome. By the way, the 2026 BGO NFL Pick'em contest is here. Details in the Sons of Washington forum on bgobsession.com. Visit and join BGO at bgobsession.com and tell bgobsession.com that Al Galdi sent you. bgobsession.com, home to your burgundy and gold obsession. And talk some Stefon Diggs on bgobsession.com, as we're talking Stefon Diggs right now as we chat with New England Patriots insider Taylor Kyles of Patriots on CLNS. The Pats on March 28th, 2025 announced having signed Stefon Diggs as an unrestricted free agent, but the Pats on March 11th, 2026 announced having released Stefon Diggs. To the person listening to this right now saying to him or herself, okay, I'm hearing all of these wonderful things about Diggs, and yet the Pats released this guy. Why? To the person saying that, you say what?
Yeah, I thought it was a situation where, one, they would have, if they had brought him back, Mac Hollins also has a very specific role in this offense. That would have meant that they were relying on two guys that were in their 30s or over 30. And I didn't think that made a lot of sense when you're really trying to maximize Drake Maye's potential in his rookie contract. And as good as Stefon Diggs is, I like guys like Alec Pierce, like Romeo Doubs, just guys who could bring more explosiveness, maybe more upside as they continue to grow with Drake Maye. And as solid as Stefon Diggs was, I think it's hard to believe that he's going to be the exact same player that he was last season. And the team just didn't sound very committal when talking about him, which, the writing felt like it was on the wall. So I just thought that they were going to try to go with a younger option for Drake Maye to develop with, and someone that he could maximize their window as well. And it just didn't really make sense, I thought, especially with all the A.J. Brown trade rumors. Stefon Diggs is a very competitive guy, so it's one thing being the wide receiver one in already a crowded room, but if you're competing with A.J. Brown, and obviously they also added Romeo Doubs, that's a lot of mouths to feed, and just didn't seem like the kind of situation that was ideal for Stefon Diggs. But the Commanders make way more sense because he will be the two, but with attention obviously going towards Terry McLaurin, at times he's going to produce almost closer to a wide receiver one.
I know that things with the Pats offense got rough last postseason. What's your assessment of how Stefon Diggs did this past postseason?
I will say in some man coverage situations, especially when guys got their hands on him, I think that's where you started to see his age a bit and where that lack of explosiveness really showed up. But frankly, there was a lot going on with the Patriots offense. And for the most part, they were playing zone defenses. And I thought Diggs did a good job of finding those windows. But you're talking about Drake Maye having a bad shoulder, going up against defenses that disguise and play coverages that he's not really used to, that can kind of throw him off. And on top of that, the protection wasn't great. So when I looked, especially at the Super Bowl, I had more of a problem with Drake Maye, especially in the first half, just not really getting comfortable because of the protection. And then once they got behind the eight ball and became predictable, they really just dug themselves into a hole I did not think they were equipped to get out of. So I didn't have really any huge gripes with Stefon Diggs when it came to the Patriots postseason issues. I thought a lot of that had more to do with the protection and Drake Maye just being in over his head on top of being injured.
All right. If I may switch topics, Washington this past March 13th announced having signed New England Patriots unrestricted free agent edge defender K'Lavon Chaisson. He for the Pats in the 2025 regular season played in 16 of the team's 17 games, had 7.5 sacks, and for Pro Football Focus had 54 pressures. He and the Pats 4 games in the postseason for the 2025 season had 3 sacks, and per PFF had 20 pressures. What are your thoughts on the 2025 season that he had for the Pats?
Yeah, K'Lavon is a really opportunistic and intelligent player. Made a lot of game-changing either takedowns or forced some turnovers for the Patriots that really made the difference in some games. So as a pass rusher, he's not the elite one-on-one winner where he's going to go up against some of the better offensive tackles and really give them trouble. I think those are situations where you'll see him, again, create some of those game-changing plays, but a lot of it is effort, a lot of it is pursuit, just not giving up on the play. But against some of the more average tackles you're going to face, especially below average guys, like he'll take them to town. So that's really what you can expect from him in the pass rush department. As a run defender, was not great. You're kind of hoping that he either gets into the backfield and is able to get a tackle for loss, or hopefully just is able to hold the edge, which was a bit of an issue. And at times, especially mid to late last year, you started to see teams specifically attacking him with their ground game. And that was really the reason the Patriots didn't bring him back. And I think he even admitted that on either his YouTube channel or something, but he did acknowledge that the run defense was an issue. So not somebody you want on the field every down, and the Patriots are kind of forcing that situation at times. But if you can use him as a situational pass rusher, he's a valuable player. Doesn't have the versatility to play up and down the line. Like, there were times they tried to use him against guards and centers, and just those strong guys, once they got their hands on him, didn't really work out. But if you're able to get him one-on-one against an offensive tackle, especially on some line games where he's attacking different gaps after the snap, I think that's where he's going to have the most success.
Was the Pats potentially re-signing K'Lavon Chaisson this past offseason ever truly a thing, or not really given the run defense issues?
Yeah, there was some thought to it because he did play well with the Patriots, but the run defense was a significant issue. And when you saw that they went and got Draymond Jones and left K'Lavon on the market, that really seemed like exactly what it seemed like. They didn't really want to bring K'Lavon back because of that defense, yeah.
Final question. I'm a big fan of the NFL's Next Gen Stats. You are a former researcher for that outlet. What was it like working for the NFL's Next Gen Stats?
It was incredible, honestly. I worked with some of the smartest people I've met in this business. My boss, Bill Smith, he's just gone up and up, but a brilliant man who really set us up for success. It was a lot of fun. I actually was not a stats guy when I took the job. I was really a film guy who was pretty scared of stats, but I understood what they were looking for and decided to challenge myself and do something outside of my comfort zone. And I mean, it frankly changed my life. I'm so grateful for everything that they were able to do for me, and just the amount of work and effort that they put into creating the best content possible is just, it's second to none. I have a lot of love for the people in that Next Gen Stats department.
New England Patriots insider Taylor Kyles of Patriots on CLNS. Taylor, thank you. All the best.
Thank you so much, Al. Take care.
Okay, by the way, we on the podcast have yet to discuss the situation with Stefon Diggs' number. He for Washington so far has been wearing number 18. The thinking is that he may ultimately go with a different number, and he on August 7th on Instagram put up a post expressing the desire to wear number 7, which was worn by Joe Theismann during his time as a Washington Redskins quarterback. Now, the number 7 has been a protected number, but is not a retired number. The only time that the number 7 has been worn by a Washington player since Theismann suffered his career-ending broken leg in November 1985 was when quarterback Dwayne Haskins wore the number 7 during the 2019 and 2020 seasons in a total mess, with Haskins not working out off being taken by the team with the number 15 overall pick in the 2019 NFL Draft out of Ohio State. Haskins did not even last for 2 seasons with Washington, which released him via waivers on December 28th, 2020. And I say all of this with respect. What ultimately happened with Dwayne Haskins, just terrible. May he rest in peace. Dwayne Haskins sadly died in April 2022. But you can always email me, the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Email from Ivan Lambert of Commander's Wire. Writes Ivan, "Hi Al. I realize I am much older than you, but I sure do appreciate your hard work daily. I recognize the work you do, and I began recognizing it back in your Team 980 era. Here is a story I wrote. I realize you may disagree, but I hope you can appreciate my attempt at consistency and the concept that a retired jersey should stand for something so special that only a select few in a franchise receive such an honor. If you feel I am in error, feel free to show me where. Coming from you, I would consider it weighty enough to consider your position and the reasons for it." Well, thank you very much for that email, Ivan. And Ivan, in his piece for Commander's Wire, makes the case that Joe Theismann, while a very good player for the Redskins, was not good enough to warrant having his jersey number retired. Quote, I watched Joe Theismann's career in Washington. I know it well. I rooted for him vigorously. He is in the team's Ring of Honor, and deservedly so, but isn't there another level of performance to have your jersey retired? Joe Theismann came to the Redskins in 1974 and was a Pro Bowl quarterback for only 2 seasons, though when the Redskins were 14-2 in 1983, Theismann was voted the AP MVP. Theismann had a few very good years, a few good years, and some very average years. Theismann was a vocal leader of those Redskins teams, one being the 1982 Super Bowl championship team, but does anyone out there old enough to remember think he was a Hall of Fame quarterback, end quote. Yeah, so Joe Theismann's playing career was before my time, but I've studied his career. I've interviewed him multiple times, and he, to me, is a borderline call in terms of whether Washington should retire his number. Joe Theismann was the Redskins QB1 for back-to-back NFC championship seasons, the 1982 and 1983 seasons, including winning the Super Bowl for the 1982 season. He won the Associated Press NFL MVP award for the 1983 regular season. Saying that his number 7 should be retired by Washington isn't crazy. He is one of the best quarterbacks in Washington franchise history, but he was not a Pro Football Hall of Fame worthy quarterback. Whether you believe that Washington should retire his number 7 depends on how high of a standard you want for retiring jersey numbers. Now, specific to Stefon Diggs wanting the number 7, this to me is simple. The team now is retiring numbers. If the team is considering retiring number 7 at some point, then no, Diggs should not be allowed to wear number 7. If the team isn't considering retiring number 7 at some point, then yes, Diggs should be allowed to wear number 7. Quarterback Sammy Ball's number 33 was the only officially retired number for the franchise for decades, and I was good with that. I thought that it was cool that our franchise had just one retired number, but our team, due to its then lead owner, Dan Snyder, being desperate for good public relations, then retired the numbers of receiver Bobby Mitchell and safety Sean Taylor. Bobby Mitchell's number 49 was retired on September 16th, 2021. Sean Taylor's number 21 was retired on October 17th, 2021, in one of the greatest fiascos of all time. And quarterback Sonny Jurgensen's number 9 was retired on January 8th, 2023. And the Josh Harris Group has continued the retiring of numbers since buying the team in July 2023. Cornerback Darrell Green's number 28 was retired on October 20th, 2024. Receiver Art Monk's number 81 was retired on November 2nd, 2025. And running back John Riggins' number 44 will be retired this November 8th. The next numbers to be retired by Washington should be those for all-time Washington greats who are in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but whose numbers have not been retired by the team. The 4 players who come to my mind: receiver Charlie Taylor, safety Ken Houston, linebacker Chris Hanberger, and guard Russ Grimm. But yeah, there are a number of other all-time Washington greats who are not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but whose jersey numbers you can argue should be retired by the team. Quarterback Joe Theismann, offensive lineman Joe Jacoby, receiver Gary Clark, returner/running back Brian Mitchell, and others. There is a slippery slope with this. This is why I would have been good with Sammy Ball's number 33 remaining the only official retired number for the franchise. But with Stefon Diggs wanting that number 7, bottom line, if the team is considering retiring number 7 at some point, then no, Diggs should not be allowed to wear number 7. If the team isn't considering retiring number 7 at some point, then yes, Diggs should be allowed to wear number 7. Taking care of the people you love, nothing matters more. Get peace of mind with life insurance through Ethos. Ethos helps to provide financial security for your family. Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy, 100% online. You get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. You'll get your lowest rate from Ethos' network of trusted carriers. And know this, Ethos has a rating of 4.9 out of 5 stars on Trustpilot with over 5,500 reviews. Take 10 minutes today to get covered with life insurance through Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/Al Galdi. That's ethos.com/Al Galdi. Ethos.com/Al Galdi. Application times may vary. Rates may vary. Trustpilot rating as of August 1st, 2026. Well, at last, the Baltimore Orioles' longest road trip in MLB's 2026 regular season is over. A 7-6 loss at the Tampa Bay Rays on Monday evening, denying the O's a 4-game sweep and concluding a 5-5 road trip. This was a game in which the O's blew a 6-4 seventh-inning lead. They, in this regular season, now are 61-64 with a run differential of -27, and now are part of a three-way tie with the Texas Rangers and Detroit Tigers for the American League's third of three wildcard spots. Each team is 61-64. The Rays, they in this regular season now are an American League best 75-49 with a run differential of +53. Bad game for Orioles pitching. Their starting pitcher was Brandon Young. He struggled for a third time in 4 outings. He allowed 4 runs in 4 innings. Threw a lot of pitches, did throw a lot of strikes. 4 innings, 82 pitches, 57 strikes, just 25 balls. His biggest problem was that he gave up 3 home runs. Young in the bottom of the third allowed a run as he gave up a 1-out opposite field solo homer by Yandy Diaz to right center field to tie the game at 1, despite Young having had Diaz down in the count at 1.12. Young in the bottom of the fourth allowed 3 runs. He in the bottom of the fourth gave up a 1-out full count opposite field solo homer by Ryan Valade to right center field to cut the Orioles lead to 3-2, despite Young having had Valade down in the count at 1.02. The homer went a projected 428 feet per Statcast, and Young in the bottom of the fourth gave up a 2-out 2-run homer by ex-Oriole Jorge Mateo to left field on an 0-2 pitch for a 4-3 Rays lead. That homer went a projected 406 feet per Statcast. So Young, with each of the 3 home runs that he allowed on Monday evening, had the batter down at one point either 1-2 or 0-2. During Orioles manager Craig Albernaz's post-game session with reporters on Monday night, had this exchange between Orioles insider Andy Koska of the Baltimore Banner and Albernaz.
What was going on with Brandon Young? 3 homers tonight. Looked like maybe some misses on 0-2 counts, things like that.
Yeah, there was some misses on 0-2 counts, especially the one to Mateo. It was just a slider that didn't get to the spot where it needed to, and that's what Mateo does. He hits the breaking balls out over the plate. If it gets to the spot, who knows? It might be a different scenario, but yeah, he just didn't have his best command. And then he threw the third and fourth inning, both 25 pitches each, so 50 pitches in 2 innings. He did a great job of battling and keep us in it.
Yeah, look, this was a big game for the O's on Monday evening. Disappointing performance by Brandon Young. Here was some of his post-game session with reporters on Monday night.
Brandon, do you feel like the biggest thing tonight was maybe just a couple mislocated pitches that they capitalized on for those homers?
Yeah, no doubt. Just didn't execute well. Honestly, I didn't pitch very well tonight. Didn't keep my team in it. Made mistakes in the middle of the plate. It's a good lineup. They made me pay for it. Just too many mistakes. Like I said, I just didn't pitch good tonight.
Did you feel like it was something that was happening throughout your outing, or do you really just think it was those few pitches?
I think throughout, just didn't have a great feel. Just wasn't synced up. Just didn't feel great. Didn't pitch good. Left pitches in the middle of the zone. I got to execute better, pitch better, and give my team a chance to win. Just didn't do that tonight.
It's like to shake your hand a couple times. Did you have like a blister or anything, or?
No, I've just been dealing with some stuff the past month or so, but nothing too bad. It's just middle of season stuff.
May I ask what you're dealing with there?
It's just like my finger hurts. That's basically it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Is there a pitch that's causing the finger to hurt, or is it?
No, it's just kind of just how it's been past month or two. I don't think it's really hindering me in any way. It's just hurts sometimes. Yeah.
We've asked you this question a bunch, so apologies for asking it again. You've kind of blown past your career high in innings. Are you feeling any different now than you maybe did a month or 2 ago?
Not really. Just going off of tonight, I just didn't feel good. We had a good game plan. I made pitches here and there, but then again, I made mistakes like throughout the game, and my team picked me up big time. So credit to them. I think we're playing good ball. I just, like I said, didn't pitch good tonight and put my team in a hole. I'll be better next time out. Execute better.
Well, you look at Brandon Young now at the major league level in this regular season, 21 games all-starts, ERA a 3.52, whip of 1.35. This is his age 27 season. You wonder if he's hitting a wall given the recent struggles because he had been doing so well. And the Orioles relief pitching in this 7-6 loss at the Rays on Monday evening was not good. 4 Orioles relievers combined to allow 3 runs in 4 innings, although 2 of the relievers did do well. Cam Sanders, another good outing by him. He tossed 2 perfect innings with 3 strikeouts. But Yennier Cano officially allowed 3 runs without recording an out. He would ended up being a 3-run 7th for the Rays. Faced 4 batters, but did not record it out as he gave up 3 singles and issued a hit by pitch. Josh Walker officially tossed a scoreless inning, but he, to the first batter he faced, gave up a bases-loaded 2-run single by Johnny DeLuca on a chopper into left field for a 7-6 Rays lead, despite Walker having had DeLuca down in the count at 1.12. And Rico Garcia did toss a scoreless and hitless bottom of the 8th with 2 swinging strikeouts. But Yennier Cano, this was the second appearance for Cano in this series. He, in each appearance, officially allowed 3 runs. He, in the Orioles' 6-5 win at the Rays this past Friday night, allowed 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Cano's ERA for this regular season has gone from 1.99 to 3.27 over these last 2 appearances. We, during Craig Albernaz's postgame session with reporters on Monday night, had this exchange.
I mean, they're rallying to take the lead there in the 7th. Just what were you seeing from Cano as he went up against a tough part of their lineup?
Yeah, I mean, him hitting Yandy wasn't the best situation there. Tough play from Mayo on that ball to his right. Kicked off his glove, off his heel. So it's things kind of got away from him there, and Walker came in, did a great job. But yeah, Yenny, hopefully getting out of the trap and get back to Baltimore, get him back to being Yenny to Cano.
Yeah, Yenny was not himself in this series. The shame of the Orioles' bad pitching in this 7-6 loss at the Rays on Monday evening was that the Orioles' offense was good, wrapping up a good series for the Orioles' offense. So the O's over the 4 games totaled 26 runs. So the O's on Monday evening, 6 runs, 14 hits, which were 3 home runs, 2 doubles, and 9 singles, a walk, 3 for 12 with runners in scoring position. But the O's did not come through in the top of the 8th. The O's in the top of the 8th, while down 7-6, had runners on first and third with 1 out, but did not score a run. Rays closer and former Orioles reliever Brian Baker, he tossed 1 2/3 scoreless innings with 2 swinging strikeouts for a 5-out save. The O's did get to Rays starting pitcher Shane McClanahan. He allowed 3 runs in 3 1/3 innings. He's a good pitcher. Came into the game with an ERA of 3.09 over 20 games all starts in this regular season. The Orioles home runs in this game came from Kobe Mayo, Pete Alonso, and Christian Encarnacion Strand. Kobe Mayo, he is the Orioles starting first baseman and number 4 batter, went 2 for 5 with a solo homer and a double. Mayo in the Orioles' 1-run second had a leadoff homer to left field for a 1-0 Orioles lead. The homer went a projected 468 feet per StatCast, longest projected distance for a home run by an Orioles player in this regular season. And Mayo in the Orioles' 2-run fourth had a full count double to left field. And the homer and the double each came off Shane McClanahan, who's a lefty. Kobe Mayo now in this regular season has an OPS versus left-handed pitching of 1,053 and an OPS versus right-handed pitching of just 526. His platoon splits are ridiculous, but how about this? Mayo against left-handed pitching in this regular season has 12 home runs versus 11 singles. More home runs than singles. He overall for this regular season has 16 home runs and an OPS of 712. He's making progress. So the O's took Kobe Mayo in the 4th round of the 2020 MLB first-year player draft out of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, the site of a horrendous mass shooting in February 2018. Mayo at the time was a sophomore at the school. This is his age 24 season. During Craig Albernaz's post-game session with reporters on Monday night, had this exchange between Orioles insider Jacob Calvin Meyer of the Baltimore Sun and Albernaz.
On a positive note, Kobe Mayo's home run, one of the farthest home runs of the season. Just how impressive is his power?
It's really impressive. His bat speed, just the way how fast he can turn on a ball and connect with it's really impressive. He has, talk about the skill set and the talent he has, and he's still young and he's still learning and developing, and it's been a great year for Kobe. There's been some ups and downs just, throughout any year, but he's done a great job of handling it and, coming down the stretch, he's really putting his best foot forward for us.
Yes, he is. Pete Alonso, he continues to be great. Alonso as the Orioles starting DH and number 2 batter went 2 for 5 with a solo homer and a single. Alonso in the Orioles 3-run fifth had a leadoff opposite field home run to right field on a 1-2 pitch from Rays reliever and former Orioles reliever Tyler Wells to tie the game at 4. The Rays, as you can tell, are loaded with former Orioles players, but that Alonso homer had a projected distance of just 357 feet per Statcast. But a homer is a homer. Alonso, by the way, on Monday afternoon was named American League Player of the Week for games played from August 10th through August 16th. He, for this regular season, now has 28 home runs and an OPS of 857. And Christian Encarnacion Strand, he is the Orioles starting third baseman and number 6 batter, went 3 for 5 with a 2-run homer, a 2-run single, and another single. Did commit a throwing error, but he and the Orioles 2-run fourth had a 1-out 2-run single up the middle on an 0-2 pitch for a 3-1 Orioles lead, and he and the Orioles 3-run fifth had a 2-out 2-run homer to left field off Tyler Wells for a 6-4 Orioles lead. That homer had a projected distance of just 359 feet per Statcast. But the stunning production from Christian Encarnacion Strand continues. The O's this past April 13th acquired Encarnacion Strand via trade with the Cincinnati Reds for cash considerations and optioned him to AAA Norfolk. The O's on July 16th announced having recalled Encarnacion Strand from AAA Norfolk. He since then has these stats for the O's at the major league level: 88 plate appearances, OPS of 853, including a slugging percentage of 543. And he's doing this as the O's are down 2 third basemen, with third baseman / second baseman Jordan Westberg on the 60-day injured list and infielder / outfielder Blaze Alexander on the 10-day injured list. You know, we in football talk about a QB1, a WR2, an RB3, etc. Christian Encarnacion Strand essentially is the Orioles' 3B3, and yet he's hitting like an all-star. And I also want to mention Gunnar Henderson. He is the Orioles starting shortstop and number 5 batter, went 2 for 5 with a double and a single, and he made a superb defensive play. Henderson, in the bottom of the 7th, made a tremendous defensive play for a 6-3 double play as he, with runners on first and second, no outs, and the O's down 7-6, fielded a chopper by Chandler Simpson up the middle, stepped on second base, spun around, and fired the ball to first base to complete the double play. What a play that was by Gunnar Henderson, who, yes, is having a down season. His defense has been mixed. The offense, as we've discussed, very disappointing. Henderson, for this regular season, now has an OPS of 705. A tough ending to an otherwise very good series for the O's. We, during Craig Albernaz's post-game session with reporters on Monday night, had this exchange.
Tough to lose a close game like tonight, but 3 out of 4 is not bad. Talk about the lift you guys must get from winning that series.
Yeah, it was a really good series for us. We're trying to win every game we can, knowing where we're at in the season and also with the wild card picture. So yeah, we would like to win this one, but overall it was a really good series.
All right. Well, next up for the O's, finally, is a homestand. A 6-game homestand beginning with a 3-game series against the New York Yankees at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. The O's have listed the following starting pitchers as probables for the series. Game 1, Tuesday evening at 6:35, Shane Baz. Game 2, Wednesday evening at 6:35, Chris Bassett. Game 3, Thursday evening at 6:35, Kyle Bradish. And that'll do it for you and me for now, but there's more to come. Wednesday's show, episode 1390, will include a lot for you on the Washington Commanders. Also on Wednesday's show, I'll talk Washington Nationals and Baltimore Orioles. The Nats are at the Texas Rangers Tuesday night at 8:05 for game 1 of a 3-game series. The O's are home to the New York Yankees Tuesday evening at 6:35 for game 1 of a 3-game series. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, and I'll talk to you on Wednesday.
This is a dog-ass competitor.